chat and kind of dive into it. First, a million welcomes to everybody here. We are super excited to have the committee with us tonight. We have a lot of work to do this year to get to a community-supported alignment. For kind of everybody's background, we have some returning members of this committee that have been with us for reapplied and got reappointed and have been with us for a long time. So just want to acknowledge and recognize your service, as well as a very warm welcome to all of our new faces. We really look forward to getting to know you and diving into the work that we have. So our advisory committees are I guess a linchpin of the work that we do. We really rely on all of you to help us do our work. And so just to kind of go, everybody should have gotten the agenda and whatnot, but just to kind of to review what we're going to do tonight, and I'll also then turn it over to Dan and Sam to give any overarching welcomes before we do full introductions. But we'll take some time to do welcome introductions. We'll kind of go through it. I'll call off names kind of alphabetically. And if you just want to say your name, what city you represent, and kind of what brought you to participate in the Blue Line. Why are you interested in our project, so that we can kind of get a sense of knowing each other. The first half of our committee is really going to be some of the housekeeping stuff. You all received the charter, but it's also your charter to develop and change and set any other rules or direction you want for the committee. We also have to elect our new co-chairs to help us through our work. So we have one of our previous co-chairs who's been a wonderful aid so far, and we'll need to kind of re-elect those folks who will also be on our CMC. So we'll get into that. So the first half is really a lot of committee housekeeping, I call it, and then we'll have a project update from Dan and Sam just to really ground everybody in where we are and where we're going in the next few months. And this committee also really helps us with some of our engagement, furthering our engagement. So we'll kind of talk about the realm of what we've heard so far and some of our initial efforts, some of the contracts that Hennepin County has, and how you all fit into that and want to fit into that. I think that about covers an overview. So Dan and Sam, any welcoming words, and then we'll get to meet everybody.
Great. Thank you, Sophia, and good evening, everybody. My name is Sam O'Connell, and I am serving as the project lead on the Met Council side, and you'll meet my counterpart, Dan Solar, just in a couple of seconds. But just want to extend a very warm welcome to everyone here. There are some names I recognize, and the names that I don't, I hope to get to know you more. Over the years that we've had our community advisory committees, this has been the most exciting part, quite frankly, of our project. The feedback that the group here provides, your thoughts, your creativity has really pushed our project in so many ways. You've allowed us to heartfelt thank you for those that have served in the past, and looking for the great ideas for the team members that are going to be joining us with this next phase. So welcome. I just also take your time for granted or lightly. We know there's things that you would rather be doing, so we do value your participation here and the time that you afford us. So just we recognize that, and hopefully that the time that you're with us is also providing value. If not, we want to hear about it. We definitely want to make this as robust and engaging of an experience for you as well. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Dan Solar, my partner in crime, if you will, and he'll say hello.
Thank you. Thanks, Sam. And I certainly also extend my welcome and hello to folks that I've met over the years on this project, and we'll see and hear from again, and then certainly all of the new voices and new folks that we have working with us. As Sam said, I'm Dan Solar. I work currently with Hennepin County Public Works in the Public Works Administration Group on LRT and other major transit projects. I have worked for Met Council in the past, and so I worked for about 7 years on the Central Corridor project bringing the light rail from St. Paul to Minneapolis. And then in 2015, I started working on the Blue Line extension and have been working on it either for Met Council or Hennepin County in all that time. And so we're at an important, very important crossroads in the project. We've tried and attempted to advance this project for a long time, and we'll talk about that in our project update later, but we're happy to kind of put some fresh life onto this project, as well as some new voices and some new minds to help guide us, and you are part of that, and we are happy to have you with us. Your companion group is a business advisory committee that also meets, and sometimes we'll have some joint meeting with the community advisory committee. And so together, we really look for those two groups to be kind of the voices for their communities and their representatives. And so we're happy to have you here. So on to introductions.
Thank you, Dan and Sam. One other housekeeping thing, just for folks that I forgot to mention at the beginning, is that you might see closed captioning down at the bottom of your screen. If you like that feature, leave it on, but if it's distracting to see the words come across the bottom, you can click on the CC, and it'll either bring it up for you to read it or minimize it so that you don't see it. I'll start off real quick also with introductions, because I forgot to do so in my beginning. I am Sophia Ginis. I am the Manager of Public Involvement at Metro Transit for Transit System Development. I have also been with the Blue Line project for quite a bit now, since basically the beginning of the project office. And during that time, I've been a resident of many of the corridor cities along the line, starting off in Northeast Minneapolis, then going up to our Brooklyn Park area, and now I'm in Golden Valley. So this is my part of the city, and I love our transit projects because I really believe in a transit-oriented lifestyle, in that the ways that having a transit-oriented lifestyle benefits kind of the world, both in terms of like climate action and accessibility and all sorts of things. So I will start reading names of folks, and if you just again want to say your city and what brought you to the committee. And actually the first person on our list is a staff person, and he's our IT guy, so he might not be prepared to introduce himself, but Jason helps us on the side. This is a public meeting, so people can stream it. That's also kind of a committee housekeeping thing, is that we do record it both in terms of notes and to stream to the public. So Jason makes that possible. Jason, do you want to say hi? Okay, I caught him off guard. Next on the list, Adam.
Hello, everyone. I'm Adam Hutchins, Minneapolis resident, born and bred. What was the other things about? I joined the committee because I really do want to see this blue line go in, and I think it needs to be done responsibly and serve the community well. So just wanted to be a part of that action, and appreciate the board. So thank you.
Andrew Gillette.
Sorry, I was having trouble unmuting. I'll turn my camera on too. So I'm Andrew Gillette. I am a Hennepin County staff person, so I'm involved in more of the land use planning and kind of the infrastructure planning stuff that goes along with the project. And I will, so I'm not technically a member of the BAC or CSE, but I will be attending and listening in and paying attention to what you guys discuss.
Okay, I'll read a few names so everybody knows who's on deck, starting with Brett, and then we have Caroline, and then we have Catherine Fleming.
Hello, everybody. My name is Brett Buckner. I'm Minneapolis resident, North Minneapolis resident, and I am just excited to see this process. Well, we got to get this thing done. We've been waiting on Blue Line for quite some time. So anything we can do to kind of push this thing down the track, proverbial track, let's get it done. So here to help out as much as possible and connect with fellow residents across the corridor.
Okay, Caroline. And if you're having, you need to unmute and you can press space bar. There you go.
Hi guys, I'm sorry I lost my voice, but I'm just going to say what I have to say. My name is Caroline and I live in Brooklyn Park specifically. And I'm so excited to be a part of this committee. This is something that we have all longed for. We have all prayed for it and we are happy that it's actually being implemented. So I'm more than happy to work on this committee, to be a voice for my community, and to also work alongside the Blue Line Extension. So whatever it is that I can do, whatever it is that we can do together, because we should not forget working as a team is what it takes to move this to another level. So I'm happy to be a part, and thank you for their appointing me. Thank you.
And then we have Catherine next.
Hello, everyone. I'm Catherine Fleming, and I've been with the Blue Line for a number of years, and the co-chair for the last 2 years. Prior to that, I was also a member of the Blue Line Coalition, which is a community base of 16 different community organizations that were interested in the Blue Line and how it would move forward. So I am here representing the park board, and I guess I'm glad to be returning. Didn't think that was going to happen, but here I am.
We're happy to have you back.
You're laughing, Dan.
We're happy to have you back.
Yes, we definitely are.
Oh my gosh. All right, so thank you. It's good to see some new people. Some folks on here I know already, and I'm excited to get to know the people that I've not met before. So it looks like a good group. I'm happy.
Thank you for that, Catherine. Okay, we have Kathy Gold, Kathy Spann, Dan already introduced himself, and then Philippe.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kathy Gold, and I work alongside Dan Solar at Hennepin County Public Works in the transit construction projects. I'm so happy to be here tonight and eager to meet everyone and hear what we have going forward for us at this in this very important project. Thanks again.
Kathy Spann.
Hi, everyone. I am really excited to be here. Once again, I'm Kathy Spann. I'm the Executive Director of Jordan Area Community Council, and I love public transportation. No matter what city I am in, I just love public transportation. I ride the Blue Line, the Green Line, the 5, the 6, the 21, the 32, the 16, the 14, the 19, the 30, the 94 Express. I go to Southdale, Rosedale, Mall of America, Brooklyn Park, Crystal. I can get anywhere on public transportation in the city and state of Minnesota. I can get anywhere. So I have even wrote a grant, Better Bus Stops, and surveyed over 400 people in regards to how do we make public transportation accessible to communities of color, and how also do we make it safe for all people. I am really here because I really want to understand how the transit system, how is it going to serve my community, especially if it goes on West Broadway. There's a lot of new development that's happening on West Broadway. I do have some concerns about the impact that it will have to homeowners and current businesses, but I am excited about the project. I think that it is time for it to occur in our community, and I'm glad that we are at the table. Communities of color are invited at the table to have this huge discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Philippe.
Hi, everyone. Pleased to meet everyone here. I am in Golden Valley, been here 3 years, and I joined this just like Kathy. I love public transportation. I grew up in Chicago, but then went to St. Olaf here and then lived in New York for a little bit. So I've been in big cities that have public transportation. as their main way of traveling, but also in cities where you have cars. And so being able to balance with, are you going to use your private vehicle or your public transportation to get where you need to go? And if I had the choice myself, I would take public transportation everywhere, just absolutely. It gets you where you need to go. So just being a part of this to help wherever we can from a consumer standpoint and a citizen standpoint, that's why I'm here. So
Welcome. Thank you for that. Next we have Jean, and then Giuseppe, and then Ellis.
Hi, I'm Gene, and I am in Robbinsdale. Been here since about 2006. I was on the corridor project here for Robbinsdale and other issues and committees within the city. My interests are basically the impact of the future growth to the communities involved, and obviously the costs and the safety.
Go ahead, Giuseppe.
Hi guys, Giuseppe Marari. I've been on this committee for quite a while. I don't know how long it's been, but it's been a while. Originally from Chicago, actually, but I live in North Minneapolis now, and one of the proposed stops is about 2 blocks from my house. And outside of that, I'm looking forward to finding an alignment that is even more equitable, inclusive, and accessible to parts of North Minneapolis that may have been a little bit more bypassed in a previous alignment. So looking forward to doing some work with you guys and seeing what happens next.
Good to have you back, Giuseppe. Good to have you back.
Thank you.
Ellis.
Hi, I'm Ellis. I'm new, Ellis Beck. So thank you for having me. It's cool. I'm excited. So yeah, thank you. I'm currently in Robbinsdale, just a couple blocks away from North Memorial. So kind of where all those cities come together. Let's see. I lived in Chicago for a while, outside Chicago for a while, lived in Denver for 5 years. Like to travel to places where we can use public transportation. I grew up in Bloomington when the Blue Line came down there. That was such a big deal. It was just access to the rest of kind of the metro area. Anyway, yeah, I'm really excited about this, if that's not clear from the way I'm rambling already. And yeah, anything I can do to help. I come from a background in history. I work in commercial real estate appraisal now. So, you know, you kind of get a chance like this once every great while to really impact the community by building something like this. And so I'm just excited to be a part of it and do everything I can to make it done right and equitable and important to the people that needs to be important to. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Ellis. Next up, we have Jason.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jason Greenberg. I'm from Robbinsdale as well. And I've been on the CAC for a while, a long period of which it was dormant. But I've lived in New York City and Chicago, and definitely am a proponent of utilizing mass transit and rail as an option. And just I'm involved not only from a development around the Twin Cities and access for people, but also just how that impacts our community in Robbinsdale, and how that fits into the larger whole of light rail for the Twin Cities.
Thanks, Jason, for
having me.
with us. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay. Thanks, Jason. Next on deck, we have Jessie, and then Jim Bull, and then Joan. Take it away, Jessie.
I'm Jesse Struve. I'm the city engineer for Brooklyn Park.
I don't know if I can beat that for brevity. I'm Jim Vole. I'm a city planner with the city of Minneapolis, so I'm not on the CAC, but I am a city staff person who is part of the city of Minneapolis team working on the Blue Line.
Joan.
Hi, all. I'm Joan Vanhala. I'm an engagement specialist with Hennepin County, and I'm working in close partnership with Sophia Ginis, as Hennepin County is working with Metro Transit to make sure we have a successful Blue Line extension. And I'll be talking more about what I'm up to later on.
And we have another staff person next, John Sutter, and then it'll be our committee member, John Walhopter, and then Kathy Frazier. John Sutter, do you want to say hi? Oh, no mic. Okay, gotcha. John is with us from the city of
Crystal.
Yes, thank you. And I was just reading the chat. So there, and other John up next.
Hi, John Wolhupter. I'm in Brooklyn Park, not too far from the end of the line. Looking forward to really bringing that investment to the North Metro and making sure that this line goes to the locations and serves the people that it needs to really be successful. My wife always makes fun of me a little bit because I was sitting there watching a construction video about the Crenshaw line in Los Angeles the other day. So
I promise you we're going to make this construction go a little easier than that construction's going in Los Angeles.
Next up, we have Kathy Frazier.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kathy Frazier, and I'm representing Brooklyn Park. I am also a mass transit user. I actually don't like to drive, so I'm looking forward to the light rail, particularly because I live off one of the proposed stops, so I can just stroll on the line and head to the airport. But I think this project will bring a lot of value to the residents of Brooklyn Park, and I'm looking forward to being involved and contributing to that success. So thank you.
Okay, next up we have Ken Rogers, and then we have a couple of staff members, Carrie and Christy Staley. So Ken, you're up now. And you are muted, so *6 or spacebar will help you unmute. Ken, I'll try unmuting you real quick. I don't think I can. It's Can I know we definitely want to make sure that you're able to participate. So you can try to maybe send me an email if you want to add comment, and either the spacebar or *6 helps. Usually I can unmute folks, but for some reason I'm not able to unmute you, so it's something on your end that got muted. We'll try to maybe come back too. Okay, we'll check back as we go through to see if we can get you unmuted, Ken. Otherwise, we'll just for Carrie, if Carrie wants to say hi.
Sure. Hi, thanks. I'm Carrie Pierce-Rue. I work for Hennepin County in Housing and Economic Development. And along with Andrew Gillette, I co-manage the Botno Community Works project. For those of you who may not be super familiar with Community Works, we look at land use and economic development issues, connectivity, a variety of other issues that are sort of beyond the scope of the actual LRT project, but in close collaboration with the design and engineering of the project. So I am super excited to be here. It's great to see old faces, old friends who I've known for a number of years. And it's also really wonderful to see a lot of new folks. I'm so excited about Botno moving forward. I'm also a transit user, and I lived on the north side for almost 20 years. So all these communities along the corridor are near and dear to my heart, and I am excited about bringing transit, helping to bring transit up there.
And just in case we have trouble getting Ken unmuted, I do want to introduce him. He's been with our committee for some time now, and he is a very valuable asset coming as our representative from our Transit Accessibility Access Committee. And so we'll hopefully be able to figure out our technical stuff and hear his voice tonight. Christy and then Kyle.
Hi, my name is Christine Staley, and I work for the Hennepin County Regional Railroad Authority. And I am part of this project on the technical team. I'm a civil engineer. I'm excited to be on the project, and I can't wait to hear your feedback.
Kyle.
Hi everyone, I'm Kyle Mianulli. I lead project communications from Hennepin County side in our transit planning division. I also support our housing and economic development department in communications. Also a passionate lifelong transit user. Before coming to the county, I was involved in the planning and eventual launch of the Green Line as a staff person for several neighborhood organizations in St. Paul, and am a strong believer in the transformative power of light rail, and am very much excited to get this project moving forward.
We might have been able to have Ken unmute.
I think I finally figured it out.
Wonderful.
So WebEx is not one of the most accessible platforms, but I was on my phone and couldn't unmute, so now I'm on the computer, so bear with me. So I represent Transportation Access Advisory Committee, which is a committee of the Met Council made up of people with disabilities all over the state. And as was mentioned, I've been on the committee for quite a while. I also served on the Green Line Community Advisory Council many years ago. Transportation is very important to me. I'm a transit dependent person. I'm blind and use a guide dog. And so I hope to bring the perspective of people with disabilities to the work that we're about to embark on. And I'm thrilled we're finally moving forward.
Thank you, Ken. Up next, we have Liz, and then Nira, and then Nick.
Hi everyone, I'm Liz Maurice. I'm supporting the staff and I'm doing notes. I'm also a longtime transit user and a big fan of the Blue Line. So I'll try to capture everything that you're sharing as best as I possibly can. We do meeting summaries, so not everything's word for word, but I hope to capture everything people share today.
And Nira.
Hi, my name is Nira Estrada Pena. I'm a resident of Golden Valley. I used public transit to get to college, and I remember being a student at North Hennepin, I think back in 2016, hearing that this project would be done close to now. And so when I heard that this was kind of getting some motion again, I decided that it would be a good thing for me to get involved in. So I'm looking forward to being able to contribute to the committee.
Well, Mira, we would have liked to have been done, but we're happy to have you helping us take the next step.
Yeah. Thank you.
All
right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Nick Landwehr. I'm with Metro Transit. I'm the design and engineering lead for the project, and I think most of you remember me. I don't think I've missed a CAC meeting that we've held in the last 6 years. So excited to be working with everybody here, and we'll get this thing built.
Okay, last on deck is Peggy, Sue, Trevor, Sam already introduced herself, and then Scott.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Peggy Sue. I am a Minneapolis resident, and I'm also a planner in my profession for a local suburban community. So pretty excited to kind of converge those two interests, both as someone who would love to have light rail access near my house, but also as someone who does this every day. I have a big appreciation for the staff on this call. And I'm a super active transit user. You know, we love having the transit that we have in Minneapolis, but I'm really excited to kind of be here. This is obviously my first meeting. And I'm excited to be here after what is likely to be kind of a realignment of this route. I think it's going to serve the neighborhoods in North Minneapolis so much better. So, you know, I think we're here after what's probably really frustrating, but ending up to be a really good thing. So super excited to participate in this.
Awesome. Trevor. Okay, Trevor might be having unmuting issues. He's one of our communications staff as well. And if anything's wrong with the website, you know who to bother. Next is Scott.
Hi, everyone. I'm Scott. I'm a Golden Valley resident. Have been here about 15 years and excited to be on this committee and meet all of you. As far as the why, like many of you, I grew up in other states or were in other states, and I am always reminding myself how fortunate I am and our family are to be in the cities. It's just such a rich lifestyle for us. There's so much to choose from and so many great things to experience here. And so for me, one of the big drivers around this is just really how do we make everything that's great about this corridor accessible to everyone along the line? And I just think that would just be super exciting to be a part of that. So happy to be a part of the committee. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. And anybody that I missed that might have joined as we were making our way through the line? I don't think so, but say hi if you didn't get a chance. Okay, we'll jump into it then. So kind of first up is that in the committee packet, you all should have received the committee charter. And, you know, it is basically the base of our work. It is yours to mold and develop. And there's a couple points we want to highlight. I have it as part of the presentation tonight. And, you know, we can kind of just finesse, but for those that want to follow along at home to see kind of the whole body, it was one of the attachments in the packet itself. So overall, the CAC is established to provide guidance to the Corridor Management Committee as we develop this project. And basically this group is going to be together from now until we submit, have a community supported alignment, which we think will take about a year. And if it takes a little bit less, a little bit more, this group will stay together through that time. And then at that point, we'll just take the opportunity to see if there's kind of missing voices or others that want to join and kind of continue along our work as we have more project to develop. So kind of some of the first things that we want folks to get their minds around and any suggestions too. And this charter was initially developed by kind of the previous CAC and has been adapted a little bit for our current work. And so all of you serve as the voice of the community, and you provide input on project development as staff works to this kind of old language that we're using, but to mitigate the use of freight rail road property. So what we mean by that is that basically this is the same project, and we are kind of finding another route is a mitigation to the technical way of like, we're finding new routes. That's what we're doing. You're helping us to find new routes. And a lot of you come with a very strong community voice. So advising us on our communications and outreach, if we bring something to you and you're all like, what? It's upon us to adjust or take your advice. Catherine and Giuseppe and Jason and others can all say that and Ken, we have definitely done that many times. we're looking for solutions. You provide the input to that. It's identifying benefits and then kind of continuing it to identifying the impacts and thinking about how we minimize those impacts. You heard from some of our Hennepin County Community Works folks on the phone tonight. They will also kind of seek some of your input, and then serving as a liaison for the greater community. Kind of with your purpose, turn it over to the group. Is there anything that you all feel that is critical to your work that we are missing? And remember to unmute yourself if you want to talk. Okay, hearing some thoughts, we can move on and then just kind of address it at all as a whole as we get towards the end. So responsibilities, and this is also where I think if there's things that you all want to add, it's important. So, attend a majority of the meetings that we have. And, one of the things that the committee has talked about in the past is sometimes over time we lose participation. People get busy, things like that. So, there might be a desire from the committee to say if you miss like 3 meetings in a row, you'll direct staff to check in with the individual to see if they're still interested. And if not, we'll reappoint. So making that, you guys could choose to make that language stronger in terms of that to keep up our participation up to you all. Obviously engage in discussion. We want to hear from you. Some of you represent broader groups. So it's reporting back and serving as a conduit just to your communities overall. We, of course, we might not always agree, right, on the best solution or the details. So it's respecting and listening to the viewpoints of others. And then also kind of what we talked about before, it's finding the way to maximize the benefit of this project and minimize its impacts as a group. So again, the question would be, are we missing anything? Does anything need to be adjusted, strengthened? I'm seeing some no's, sounding like it's good. Okay. Moving on. I didn't put the full membership roster in the PowerPoint because it just gets kind of funky to see, but it is in your handout. And basically we have representatives from all of our corridor cities, Hennepin County, Met Council, and the TAC that Ken represents. And that's kind of the basis of our committee. You all have to be residents and you can't be elected officials. So that's kind of some of the basics of it. And if you're no longer able to serve, we appoint new folks. Anything with that feels missing, or even our membership composition. You all met each other tonight. Anything that we're missing? Shake heads if you think we're good. Good.
Actually, one question. Youth. I'm not sure on our participation with youth. How are we connecting with young people?
So that's been a conversation that we've had in the past of, extending an official kind of youth spot, or kind of dealing with it in other ways. And while we can't announce yet, Joan later in the presentation, while we can't announce yet the community consultants that we'll be bringing onto the project because their contracts are still in negotiation, we know a couple of the organizations that we're hoping to bring forth to further our engagement efforts, work directly with youth, and we'll be focusing on them as a stakeholder in our community engagement. So we're open to the idea of a youth member, but kind of right now, that's what we thought. And I would say too, we know that this body, sometimes people are seeking elected office, kind of to the point of that you can't be an elected official. And we would say that if you are running for office, you can be on this committee during that process. Usually we know because of filing, but that when you are officially elected, we would ask for you to find a replacement. That's how we often handle that piece. Does this feel good to folks? Okay. This gets into our next body of work, is that we actually have to select co-chairs. And this actually, I think, is some of the root of what we should make sure that we're all in agreement with tonight, is that we typically seek, you guys can decide if it's kind of a chair and a vice chair or co-chairs. And usually we start with the point of, co-chairs, that you both kind of work in partnership to kind of lead us through our work. And the co-chairs also serve in the role of attending the corridor management committee and reporting out. So it's our corridor management committee meets on Thursdays from 1:30 to 3. So it'd be a role that, being able to be flexible with that in your schedule. And some of the other kind of, it's not really part of the charter, but as you're thinking about whether you want to be a co-chair, I usually reach out to you before this meeting to kind of talk about the agenda and kind of check in about if we're touching on the right things, if other things need to be added, and kind of thinking about the role. We'll all have our own opinions and we'll all have our own perspectives, but you have to kind of be willing to also take forth things that, Sam said I have a typo, meets on the second Thursday of the month, the CMC does. That's bring forth the viewpoints of others. And this is a fundamental piece of how this committee has worked, is that as an advisory committee, we work not necessarily to vote, but on just kind of collaboration. So the idea is that you would bring forth both a majority opinion, and if there's dissenting views, kind of to our corridor management committee, so that they can see both views. And there might be times that this committee feels strongly in voting, but typically we want to bring forth all perspectives. And I know, Dan, did you want to add anything about that? I know you had some thoughts about that, or Sam, but I think it's.
Sophia.
Catherine, were you gonna add something?
Yeah, I just gonna ask Sophia if she would give the group a little background on who the CMC members are, so they have a little bit of a background, so to speak, on who the co-chairs will be speaking to for those who are new to the process.
Sophia, go ahead.
Great.
Thanks, Catherine. That's a good idea.
So our corridor management committee is made up of elected and appointed officials along the lines. They're usually often our corridor mayors or our council members. And then we have our Hennepin County commissioners and our Met Council council members. We also have a few staff members from key agencies such as MnDOT and the Metropolitan Airports Commission. And we have the Blue Line Coalition has seats as well. So it is our kind of policy board officially for the committee. It's in statute. The CMC is something that's put forth in statute for us.
And yeah, I think so, folks. It's important that, when we this was kind of a new thing that we started on Blue Line that we didn't have originally on the Central Corridor project, and that is we had both our Community Advisory Committee, which you guys are members of, and the Business Advisory Committee, and we decided on the Blue Line extension to have the co-chairs or chairs from those groups also make presentations about their work in the committee to the Corridor Management Committee as well. We give presentations there all the time so that our elected and appointed officials have an understanding on what's happening on the project and what's moving forward, because it's the CMC body that makes recommendations up to either the Hennepin County Board or the Met Council or various city councils to take formal decisions on the project. So to really make sure that this group has their voice, I mean, we can bring that information forward, but it just works better if actually someone from the group comes and is able to talk about what happened.
So Dan, if I could.
Go ahead, Sam. Yeah.
Yeah, Dan, if I could add to that. So Corridor Management Committee is very interested in the conversations that you all have and learning, as they know that you have some deep networks and deep connections to your communities and would like to amplify and hear that at the CMC. So we do provide an opportunity on the agenda of Corridor Management Committee, so it is just a little bit more formal, is that there is a CAC report out on the Corridor Management Committee, and that's also true for our Business Advisory Committee. So the CMC is benefiting from all of those perspectives.
Part of how this is written too is kind of some feedback from your predecessors, in that this committee didn't feel like shutting down voices and opinions was a productive way to work together. Obviously, sometimes we all agree, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time to work to consensus or work through an issue. So that was a recommendation that kind of was brought forth as a way to kind of make sure that everybody's voices kind of got carried through to our policymakers. So does this sound fair and kind of right in terms of what folks would expect, both as a deliberative body and for an expectation of the co-chairs?
Just one more point, Sophia, and just want to highlight the fact that while giving that report, the co-chair must be in a position to respond to questions. So it's not just you giving a dialogue to the CMC. They are robust in their questioning and responses, things like that. So just so folks know, it's not just you reading something and then that's it. You will be responding to questions from a different set of elected officials.
And of course, staff is there to support, technical questions and whatnot. But to Catherine's point, the CMC often very much wants to hear details of the conversations that happen here. And you're not just a voice to report. You're also actively participating on the CMC. So as the CMC takes deliberates, you're a voice to add to that. So maybe head nods. Does this feel okay, or does anybody have anything that they want to add? Everybody is I see a lot of yeses. Yep. Okay. Now, you might not all be fully ready to think about if you want to be co-chairs. So we'll have the last little bit of our charter, and then to give you a moment to think about whether you're interested, and then we'll try to address that next. So right now, and this was a question I got, is that we're scheduled to meet on the first Monday of the month at 6 p.m. And I'd say the committee does have some leeway of when we meet. We want to meet before the CMC, and so that we do need to meet before Thursday. Even though it's the second and first, kind of dates, months happen that it'll be the same week that all the committees line up on the same week. And we don't have to meet at 6. That was kind of a time that got picked when we were, all in person, right? And people needed travel time and whatnot. So is it better to meet at 5:30? Maybe everybody doesn't have quite an opinion yet, but I would kind of seek that confirmation from the committee that this feels the best time. I know a lot of you applied with your city staffs letting you know that would be the Monday, so we don't want to drop people off in that. And just kind of the last two pieces is there'll be times that maybe we need to meet more often. And so whether that's a subcommittee, a group of us meeting, or a special meeting is called. Typically when we've kicked off the BAC-CAC to the Community and Business Advisory Committee, we've tried to meet together, but just the nature of the online world, it just felt like each committee should deliberate first, and then we'll bring you together next. So does this all, that kind of concludes our charter discussion. Before we go on to hearing if anybody's interested in being a co-chair, does anything feel like it needs to be modified or changed or added? Are we missing anything?
Hey, one question for the committee, if they could. Yeah, I know I'm new to this. Are we locked into that first Monday? I have union meetings on the first Monday, which I can miss, obviously, but if it was better or allowable to move it to the first Tuesday, is that totally off the page, or Monday is locked in?
I think I'd be open to moving the day, but Tuesdays and Thursdays are hard for me just because I'm staff in a community, so that's often our public meeting dates. So I'd be open to moving it to like a Wednesday, but I'm not sure if that's enough time. But yeah, I could be flexible.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else thoughts?
I'm good for any day that you guys.
Yeah, for me personally, Wednesdays would be a little better just because where I work, sometimes we have late nights on Tuesdays.
So Sophia, is a Wednesday too quick or too close to the Thursday meeting? Is that too close?
Might lead to some scrambly mornings for the project staff, but I think it would be a doable. Maybe the step forward is just I could send out a poll to the committee just to make sure that we don't lose folks by making that switch. So I'll maybe send a doodle that's like stick to Monday, or does Wednesday work better for folks? And and then we'll bring that back for discussion for folks, because I don't want it to be like a vote necessarily, but I just want to make sure we don't lose folks.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thanks for considering it, at least.
And I'm getting a lot of head nods that seem to think that Wednesday might be doable as well. Maybe some head nods about keeping the time. Do we like the time?
Yeah, 6 works for me.
And same week of the month, right, Sophia?
It would need to be, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds fine from my end.
Okay, it should work out that we should never have a first. I don't think you can have a first or a second Tuesday without a first Wednesday. So I think we'll be fine on that front. Okay, seems like we have a path forward with that. And so you might not be all ready, but is anybody interested in being, and maybe sorry. There was a question of, will we meet in specific cities to address questions? And so far, with this group, everybody's kind of wanted to hear about everything that's happening in all cities. You know, it is a connected align, but in terms of getting us community together, if there was a group that wanted to dive more into detail with things, that we can do that.
Well, and I think, Sophia, a little bit of the way I read Caroline's question is, would individual committee members in their city meet together and bring the viewpoints of their cities together? And the answer to that would be sure. I mean, partly you are representing the project as a committee, but you're also representing not only yourself personally, but the group that you were appointed by. So if you wanted to run something by as committee members from, say, Robbinsdale, wanted to run something by Robbinsdale staff or Robbinsdale council members or yourselves as it affects Robbinsdale, and then bring that to a CAC meeting, I think that certainly is viable. Yeah.
Do we have the list of where everyone's from?
Yes, I can send the chart, or not the charter, the roster that has your names and the cities that you represent, so that you have that. Per Met Council rules, I need all of your individual permission to officially share your contact information. So since we're in virtual, you kind of can see everybody's contact information, but I still actually need your permission to share that with you all. And we've heard from folks in the past that sometimes group emails get a little bit much. So I think in sharing your contact information, we would and how you communicate with each other, it's just good to know what you all prefer.
You could share mine.
I guess that
That brings up a question around, are there rules around, I mean, like in other commissions that I've worked on before, there are some rules around quorum and who can speak to who when. Just knowing if we have everyone's contact information, is there anything around like who it's okay to talk to outside of the meeting, or does it matter? Or is it okay to just, we can all work with whoever we want?
You can talk to anybody you want. You know, I would, with the only caveat is that if we're having robust conversations about the project externally, we still want to document that, right? It's still part of our federal process. We take notes basically at every meeting. We report to the FTA about what we do. We save conversation for the public record for a long time. So while there's no prohibition on, you know, kind of talking separately, I think you all see when I email you, I write to BPO DMC. That's our document management system, so we can kind of track some of the communications that we've had. So we while you're free to talk to anybody, we do like to officially document some of that feedback for the project record, if that makes sense.
So, Sophia, if
No,
I could
that's great.
also
I just
add.
want to make sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Jason. No, finish your thought, please.
Oh, I was just going to say that's good to know, because then, you know, it's like if you have more than 3 people in a meeting that needs to be public, you can really run into trouble. But if the goal is just let's make sure everything's documented, that's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yeah, I appreciate the question, Jason, because I think, you know, different bodies, and although you are a public, I mean, you are a public group, you are coming together publicly, the discussions are being recorded. If you're not a member of your committee, you can watch, you know, your meetings, things like that. Sophia's right. If you have extensive conversations that are really bringing some depth of conversation, we'd like to maybe document that so everybody would have the benefit, so we can capture that in notes and maybe share with the rest of the CAC members or something. But there is no, this isn't like Robert's rules, because part of it is that we really aren't voting, right? We're looking for consent and consensus to move forward in our decision making, and just capturing the whole spectrum of comments and thoughts coming together. So, you know, no need to think about quorum, but privacy is still a very big piece of this. So I would suggest that we will have to just send you all something through email that just definitely gives us permission to share your private information. And your private information, as the council defines it, is your email, your phone number, and your address is basically the private information. So any one of those 3 items, we would need your permission to share within the committee.
So as we send out a poll, I'll just also just ask for you to to kind of check those boxes, email, phone kind of thing, and we'll collect that. And so then we'll follow up post this meeting, give everybody a little bit of time to respond, and send the roster with names, the city, and those that have given me permission to officially share their contact information. Obviously, you can figure that out a little bit, but there you go. Any other questions with that? And otherwise, we'll keep clipping along. Okay, I can't always see the chat, so if others can help point me to when I miss something, I'd appreciate that. Okay, so now that I've said that, I'm paying attention to the chat. If anybody just wants to either raise their hand or indicate in chat that they're interested, or any way that you feel comfortable on mentioning that you would be willing to be a co-chair, I think this would be the moment. Jason's interested. Do we have any others? Be a voice for the committee. Go to CHC. Philippe said he would be interested. Any other takers? With two, it's pretty easy to decide who your co-chairs are. But just want to make sure everybody that feels like they might be interested, I'll give that awkward 30-second silence for anybody else to make their minds up. So. Okay, seeing no movement and sitting in silence for an awkward amount of time, which Minnesotans particularly hate. It seems like your two folks that are interested are Jason and Philippe. And see if I can do this from memory. Jason, you are Robbinsdale, and Philippe, you're Minneapolis or Brooklyn Park?
Golden Valley.
Golden Valley, of course. My compadre in the city of Golden Valley. Okay, so we have some representation at different cities. Any other thoughts from the committee? Otherwise, I think maybe just we work on consensus. So head nods, thumbs up, indications that you support your co-chairs. Awesome. Okay. Well, congratulations, Philippe and Jason. You are our new co-chairs. Thank you for volunteering for the extra time. I will be following up to send you your thumbs up from Ken. I'll be sending you the appointment for the Corridor Management Committee to log in. It is March 11th, the first one, and we can check in beforehand about giving a little update and giving an update to the committee and welcoming you officially to the committee. And then we'll get a standing time on our calendars monthly to check in before this meeting and just kind of do a rundown of what's going on and any advice that or direction that you want to add to the development of that agenda. Cool. Okay. Well, we're kind of on schedule. We'll keep moving. And thank you all for weighing in on all of that and for volunteering. I'm going to turn it over to Dan and Sam, kind of ground us on kind of where the project has been. So I know a lot of you have been following along with us since August, and we're getting ready to kind of take the next step as well. So Sam and Dan will walk us through that, and at kind of the end of this section, be able to we'll be seeking some feedback from you all on our project goals.
And thanks Sophia, and thanks Jason and Philippe. It is this is your committee. This as members, the CAC is a community advisory committee to help guide folks and guide us as staff through the process. And we will be there certainly to give presentations and provide background information, but your input on what you want to see on the agenda, your input on what you want to discuss, your input on what you want to focus on, and how you want to guide us through this process is really yours. And we need you and look forward to you to guide us. So we talked a lot about, what the committee does and how it helps. And we want to talk a little bit now, first of all, just a little bit about how we work. You both met Sam and I and Sophia, and you'll meet some other folks from our team. We're really right now a joint project management team made up of Hennepin County and Metro Transit representatives that lead this effort. And so we meet regularly. Some weeks I might have 15 to 20 meetings on Blue Line Extension on various topics. And our project management team meets every Monday. And so as we think about the work going forward over the next year, we really break the work down into 4 groups or 4 arms that are at work with, that we will want to work with folks on. Up in the upper left, we have people that are working on design and engineering function. Those you can understand. Can we build rail here? Can we build rail there? What are the impacts to this street? What are the impacts to, you know, sewers and water and all of the design and engineering pieces that are part of building an LRT project. That's a piece of what we do. And you've seen, you met or heard both Christine Staley and Nick Landwehr today. They are leading that effort on behalf of Met Council and Hennepin County. So we have a very strong team on that piece. Over on the far right side, communications and engagement is a huge part of what we do, primarily the engagement effort. And you're going to hear more about that later tonight on the agenda about what we're doing in the public engagement realm, how we're using contract services with local organizations throughout the corridor to help us guide public engagement and feedback from folks on our direction over this year. And so Sophia, Ginis, and Joan Vanhala from Hennepin County and Met Council lead that effort. And they've got a very strong team, as well as Kyle Mianulli and Trevor Roy, both also on here, who do a lot of the communications work and how we get messages out to the public. And, you know, I'm used to bringing big boards to meetings and then every once in a while having a newspaper article. And now, of course, between social media and all of the different ways we can interact, communications is a huge part of not only how we get our message out, but how we receive information back from people. The community work side is a lot of the pieces that will be part of thinking about community development and economic development and land use issues in and around the LRT corridor. Our community work staff, led by Carrie Pierce-Rue, who you heard tonight, will help work on other projects adjacent to the LRT project that help formulate, you know, a winning formula for the whole piece, as well as some of the housing and land use and displacement and gentrification and other issues that we will face when we implement a big project like that. So that's a big part of one of our arms. And then also, we utilize federal funding in our LRT projects in the Twin Cities. So we work with FTA, the Federal Transit Administration, very closely as we move these projects forward, including the environmental impacts and environmental mitigation efforts necessary to do that. You see the words FTA New Starts process, and you'll hear us talk about that over the year. The New Starts program is the name of the federal program that we participate in for moving these large capital projects forward. So that's really our structure. Sam and I kind of both co-lead this group of personnel from all sides to help, and you'll hear from everyone in these various different areas over time as we move these meetings forward. So what is our big task in front of us? Our big task in front of us is very simply put to determine whether or not we can come up with a community-supported alignment route for LRT that goes from Target Field to North Brooklyn Park without using Burlington Northern right away. As a quick reminder, former Blue Line extension that all of us on staff tried to move forward for years, left Target Field and went down Highway 55, and then it turned north and it intended to share Burlington Northern right-of-way from Highway 55 along and next to Theodore Wirth Park in Golden Valley in Minneapolis, through the city of Robbinsdale, through the city of Crystal, into the city of Brooklyn Park, and then it transitioned over to West Broadway, ran north and south on West Broadway up to north of Trunk Highway 610 near the Target North Campus. So 8 miles of that route was shared with Burlington Northern Freight Rail. That is not going to happen. We now know that we will not be able to reach a co-location agreement with Burlington Northern to build LRT property. And so what we need to do is discuss and determine, can we reach consensus around a community-supported alignment that uses the same termini but doesn't use railroad right away. So very soon we're going to release some preliminary routes, and we'll touch on that today. And we'll talk about the next steps on that. as we engage on this going forward. In early summer, we're going to start to take comments, look at station locations, and do those ideas and elements so that by late fall, late summer into fall, we're kind of reaching consensus around a route that will work. Go ahead, Sophia. So by the end of 2021, we want to adopt that alignment. That'll then allow us to begin conceptual engineering around those new routes and evaluate the project benefits and impacts so that we can reach a community-supported alignment. That's what we hope to complete in 2021. And if we're successful, and I believe we will be, then going into 2022, there's a number of steps we have to take. We have to continue and finalize and confirm our environmental approach. We have to work with the Federal Transit Administration to kind of clear the environmental hurdles in the environmental impact statement process and develop mitigation measures for those. We have to seek municipal consent on the project from our municipalities that this route will be in, and then we can start to develop construction-ready plans and design details. This is not a very fast process. I mean, we've been at it for many years, and it takes time. This is going to be, I mean, there's going to be thousands upon thousands of meetings and discussion as we roll this thing through the end of construction. And so we've got a project, as many of you may know, that Met Council and Hennepin County are working on called Southwest LRT that is moving, and it goes good as a hurdle, goes good as a hurdle. And so that's very typical. And so we will continue to move that forward. So as we roll out the route options, we've really determined that this corridor breaks down into kind of 3 separate areas. And you see those on our maps right here. The north rectangle, which essentially goes from north of Highway 610 in Brooklyn Park down to almost the Brooklyn Park border, just by about 73rd along 81. That's the element where the former alignment was on and continues to be on West Broadway. And we believe that for the most part, that's going to be the case. The City of Brooklyn Park, the community that would allow us to continue to serve North Hennepin Community College, continue to serve the Target North Campus, continue to serve the residential and businesses along West Broadway. So in that area, the alignment is likely to be preserved on that roadway. The center kind of diagonal rectangle is where it was really, for the most part, running north-south on the Burlington Northern right-of-way. And the City of Crystal, Brooklyn Park, and Robbinsdale have said if it can't be on railroad right-of-way, then the logical place in our minds for the LRT to be would be on Highway 81, parallel county roadway, right next to the railroad right-of-way. So if you've driven on that piece, it goes through 63rd, it goes through Bass Lake Road in Crystal, both right near, actually directly adjacent to the railroad, goes over Highway 100. But it does definitely change the impact of light rail in Robbinsdale. Rather than being one side of the downtown railroad right away, it would be on Highway 81 through Robbinsdale. Much different character, a lot of engineering to be done to determine, does that fit, does that work? But the other piece that being on Highway 81 allows us to bring North Memorial Hospital in as a potential destination, which is also on Highway 81, just north of the Minneapolis border, right near the bottom of that rectangle. So that also is kind of how that center rectangle works. And then the bottom one is the one that's really the most challenging. There we were along Highway 55 and up the Burlington Northern Railroad right away. And in that area, there is no parallel route that is directly adjacent. So in that case, we've been looking at possible routes that would allow for street running LRT to go from Target Field Station and reach the North Memorial area or the Robbinsdale border. And so part of that will be identifying those routes, bringing that out, and then really working on the public engagement around what makes sense. So to get at the first initial rollout, both the previous CAC last year, as well as our corridor management committee, adopted some project principles. And Sophia, if our CAC doesn't have the project, we'll certainly get them to all of them. That shows kind of how we want to go about this. We've looked at what rights of way are available. We've looked at previous work going all the way back in history. We've done some early community feedback on what makes sense. That's all going to help guide us to this initial rollout of possible routes for LRT in these areas. So that's a real kind of high-level background of a little bit about how we got here and where we're going next. Hand this over to Sam, and she's going to continue to talk about kind of what to expect as we move this forward.
All right, thanks, Dan. This is a lot, right? Like this is I wish we had a drum roll here, but we're a little bit away from that drum roll as we're talking about the route options that really are looking to serve communities. Before we're able to share that, and our hope is we're able to share that in the next couple of weeks, I want to provide a little bit of background of what's not included. So this is not to be a Debbie Downer. This is just to let everybody know that these are conceptual routes at this point, but there's a lot of work that needs to continue. But just wanted to kind of get folks grounded as to what we will be working, but it helps us with the conversations with communities as they begin to envision this type of investment in their communities. So when we come out with these potential routes, it's that basically it's looking at, as Dan said, using our principles, using the destinations that community members have told us, what we know about light rail maintenance and operations, and kind of like the best way of running light rail, since we have Blue Line and Green Line right now. So it has that approach to looking at the routes. So what that means is that we don't know exactly within inches where the light rail would go, for example, like exactly how it's positioned in the corridor. So it's, again, conceptually where it could go through communities and serve residents and businesses. So with saying that, at this point, at this level of analysis, we will not fully understand all of the right-of-way impacts. So what does that mean for existing structures or public rights-of-way, or sort of above and below the roadway as well? That is something that we will get to, but as of our first cut, it's not something that we have all of the analysis completed for that. On the same token, the full analysis of project benefits. So what do we mean when we say that? We're not going to be able to share at this level for our discussion, total ridership, total travel time. We have some sense, given the previous alignment, that is something that we will work towards. But as you look at routes, it's not where Route A, for example, we will have the full ridership for the corridor. In Route B, we would have the full ridership for that corridor. And then the travel times to basically go from the north to the south. So just wanted to share with you that isn't something that we're ignoring. It's just that as we continue our work, that it will be revealed and shared as well. Station locations, definitely parts of the map that Dan shared. Some of those station locations on the northern end make the most sense because we don't see any changes there because they were, quite frankly, out of the railroad right-of-way. However, with some of the new route options, they're not fully identified because that's really what we're hoping to engage community members on. Where would you like to see a station on this particular route? We know the destinations that community members have shared with us. We'd like to just have that deeper discussion with residents and businesses on where those ultimate ideal places for station locations. As Dan talked about, these projects carry risks. These are multi I should say multi-generational projects, right? Multi-decade for sure. Multi-billion projects, municipalities, and jurisdictions. So these are huge projects. And as we continue design and engineering, we'll understand more of the risk. So we start out at a pretty high level of carrying some risk with this project. And as we get into more and more work, more of those risks are known. But it's never foolproof. And we've known that on the existing Green Line, on the projects that we're building right now, and even afterwards, right? Like, okay, maybe that was a little bit more of a risk than we were willing to take or fully understand at the moment. But through the process, those risks get minimized. And I just want to share this, it's the recognition that a lot of people have put their heart and soul and tears into a project like that. And we don't take that lightly, but we want to be transparent and still saying that we are still in a competitive environment for federal funds. And so there is some risk with that as well. So we want to be able to provide and put forth the best project possible. So having said that, costs are not known at this time. We will be getting there, but just wanted to share with you, as we look at our route options, we wouldn't have a fully vetted or fully loaded cost piece to this point. So I'll move to the next slide. And so you're all saying, well, great, Sam, what do you want to know from us if you're not going to have all that information? What can we tell you? So as we share the potential routes, what we want to know from the community members, from our business members, from you, from our business advisory committee is, do we have this right? When we've taken all of the information from basically last August to this point, do those routes make sense? Do you feel them? Can they resonate with you in terms of what you're seeing? We will also be talking about project goals and objectives and evaluation criteria that we really would like the community to help us understand what's important and what are the priorities. So as community members begin to weigh in, how do we help frame that up so we can get to a single community supported alignment hopefully by the end of this year? So we need your input on that. The other piece about this is we still would like to know what you would want to know. So what other information would be helpful as you take this information in, begin to share it with your other community members within your networks, and help us identify what other information you would like, including if there's a way for us to talk about this as potential opportunities or challenges and bring that into the discussion. Okay, if we can go to the next slide. So as Dan talked a little bit about this too, and just a commitment from our project management team here is that there are going to be continued conversations beyond the work that we'll be doing together this year, and they're big. And for us to be serious about this, we don't want to put a time limit and feel like we have to come up with immediate solutions, because a lot of these issues are big. They're multi-jurisdictional. There's a lot of folks that need to be around the table having these conversations. So I just wanted to highlight a few of what those are. Things that we're hearing, and I think folks even mentioned a couple of these during their introductions, about how can we ensure that the folks that want service can stay in the communities. So how can we get our hands and arms and thoughts around anti-displacement strategies and tools, both from the county, from Met Council, from the cities, from our neighborhoods? How can we get together and begin to think about that? Clearly, this line serves so many of our community members, and we want to be centered in that work. So how do we always bring equity, inclusion, and diversity into our decision-making and into our processes? The other piece about this is that these route options are going to change the previous route. And when we did a lot of that work with the previous route, communities came together and said, these investments make sense for us too, because they're also improving safety. They're improving neighborhood connectivity. They're giving us multimodal options with other transit services, for example, linking in or improving the trail network. So we don't want to lose those investments that we had identified as part of the previous alignment, and just keep that as part of our conversation going forward. So those communities that may be impacted by a route shift, if you will, that we still are aware of those needs and that we are finding ways to address them even outside of this project, just kind of keep those conversations going. And of course, as we learn more from you, we'll have additional issues as we receive feedback, as we're in communities, as we're going deeper. And we just want you to be aware that we are not wanting to lose those conversations. You all will help us stay honest. So if you're hearing things and we're not mentioning it, please let us know that, hey, you guys need to talk about this. This is an important issue for my community. It's an important issue for my community to move forward. So we will keep that running list of issues as well. So I just wanted to stop there before we go into goals, and maybe Sophia, if we could just go back to the previous slide and just see if there's any feedback or any comments from our committee members today about the previous slides, either what I presented or what Dan has presented.
Well, you know, I have a couple of comments, Sam.
Yes, Catherine, please.
Of course. I want to know how we're going to, or if we're going to try and manage expectations when we're talking about our position with the feds as far as funding. If the community comes up with an alternative that threatens that particular position, are you going to let them continue on down that path, or what will the position be?
So Catherine, and Dan can jump in on this too. So what we have heard from our partners at the Federal Transit Administration is that the best thing we can do is bring a community-supported alignment, bring that community-supported route. And they're behind that, right? So that's what they want to see. So if that is what the community is wanting and it meets the needs of the community, that is the route, that is what we are going to propose and share. It doesn't make sense for us to propose something that doesn't come from the community, that is not going to be supported from the community. So we will continue to engage the Federal Transit Administration. Dan and I and others on the call from staff meet with them monthly, or almost monthly, sorry, quarterly, to keep them abreast as to how we're moving forward and the project development process. And we do want to be step in step with them. We do anticipate that with this new administration, Catherine, I think that there could be some changes in terms of looking at these type of programs that could only benefit projects like the Blue Line extension. Dan, any reaction to that?
I think that's a good answer, Sam. And Catherine, I think the key pieces for us are, you know, the Federal Transit Administration wants to make sure there's a couple things we don't change. So, for example, that we don't change mode. If we were all of a sudden to change this to a bus rapid transit project or some kind of a bus project, then they would say, well, that's not in the same category that you've been, that's a new project. Or if we wanted to say, well, we want to keep the same project, but we want to go from Target Field and we want to go, you know, out to, you know, Western Maple Grove. Well, that's not the same project any longer either. So I think they're willing to work with us. And as Sam has said, they're very concerned about wanting to make sure that we don't just throw something out there, but that we do our work here locally to develop a true community-supported route.
Mm-hmm. Catherine, any more questions you have or thoughts you would like to share?
I'm not on that topic, but since I've always been shy and unassuming, something may come later.
We will be ready.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I had a quick, so one thing that I'm just curious on this last slide, just talking about, I mean, a lot of these things are similar to topics that we discussed in the previous alignment when we were meeting as a CAC. One thing that I sort of noticed that is missing is just around, you know, communities investing and developing around light rail and how this new corridor will impact those plans for the different communities along the line. I know we don't have the answers right now, but I'm just saying, as far as like considering where development was going to happen based on the old route, things are changing, and are we taking into account how, you know, how communities and cities are thinking about development moving forward? Because you know, now that we're going to have a new route, then that will in theory change. And so I think we should have some plan or some ideas on what do we think that impact is going to be.
And Jason, that's a great question. And as you know, as we've talked about, we had essentially developed, we being the county and Met Council and the local cities, all had developed station area plans in and around all of the station areas on the former LRT alignment, on the former route. And so, yes, along West Broadway, a lot of those things live. Along, say, 63rd in Brooklyn Park or Bass Lake Road in Crystal, the station may be moved, you know, 400 or 500 feet. And a lot of those things can be the same. As we go further south into Robbinsdale, station area plans will be different. As we go into Minneapolis and Golden Valley, there may be stations completely in different areas than they were before. And so we will look to our partners at Community Works and at Met Council to again tackle that issue, both what to do, and this is a two-phase issue now, what to do about the station area plans that were developed and discussed in areas that are no longer possibly going to have LRT stations, and subsequently what to do and how to plan around new LRT stations when we decide which route and where those would get sited. But also what might be able to be done for community development to not only be determined after the stations are sited, but can help us determine where the best spots for stations are in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big melding of community land use plans and local transportation plans and all of those kind of things. So Peggy Sue, very good to have you here as a local municipal planner. You know how all that will get intertwined with each other.
I believe Scott also had a question or comment.
Yeah, thanks, Sophia. Just maybe tagging along with the question that Catherine posed, and maybe I'm just looking for some optimism from staff and the folks that have been into this. This isn't going to affect my commitment over the next year, but you know, I've heard a lot of negative around, you know, would we ever be able to get a new alignment on this? And so I'm just wondering, maybe Sam, you others could speak to, you know, I know you don't want to give away the story tonight on all the great work that you've been doing behind the scenes that we're just going to be catching up on over the next few months, but maybe speak to us a little bit around just general optimism that we're going to be able to find a new alignment over the course of this year for all the time that folks will be putting into this, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Scott, no, I appreciate the question, and let me know if I'm providing an answer that makes sense. I would say as staff, probably about June or July, we were pretty nervous, right? We're like, oh no, we've spent a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of work with communities themselves, community members like yourself have been poured their hearts into these type of projects, right? And we were kind of nervous because we're going to have to kind of, you know, we're going left. We're going just a little bit of a different direction. And we were nervous, quite frankly, because how is that going to be accepted by the community? How are we going to pull something like that off? And how do you just make this regional investment? How do you just kind of turn the tide a little bit on that? I would say quickly by August, after the announcement that we needed to not focus on the Burlington Northern Santa Fe route anymore because that was unsatisfactory, that we were not getting the solution that we were looking for, and being more open to thinking about how we can bring this project to fruition. And I would say, Scott, and I would ask any of my colleagues here to weigh in on too, that conversation, like the right idea happened at the right time, right? Like folks were really happy to embrace this, understand that there was some community frustration. We totally heard that as well. But I think folks, especially in the last year, as we think about what's important to our communities, what makes them sustainable, what makes them vibrant, what makes them move forward. Transit has a role in that, and something like a Blue Line extension has an opportunity to really be part of that solution. So I would say that I quickly became a doubter of my own doubts, and really found passion and solace in some of the community conversations that we're having. And I would say even tonight is a very positive, as you all introduced yourselves and talked about what you want out of a project like this. That's really what we're tapping into. And I do believe, and I wholeheartedly believe, our communities are going to come together and find that solution that's going to make sense for their neighborhoods and their businesses, and producing one heck of a regional system, another leg of the regional system.
Sam, I just also want to add real quick that, you know, for policymakers, and especially on the city, Met Council and county side, not only the time, but Hennepin County's investment in the project to date is over $100 million. And so that's $100 million that has been invested attempting to move forward a project. And so it is no easy task for a policymaker to make that very difficult decision to make a pivot away from the Burlington Northern alignment. But we were not going to be successful continuing down that path. And so that difficult decision was eventually made. And I can tell you that on the political side, we have county board members, Met Council members, a Met Council chair, and tremendous support from all of your city council members and mayors to really find a way to serve the people in this part of Hennepin County with an LRT line that they think can help address the second line that's still up there on that slide, which is equity, inclusion, and diversity in our county. And so Em and I feel good when we know we have the commitment of our leaders behind us in terms of our commissioners and our Met Council chair and our city councils and mayors to help get us there. So there is a room for optimism. There's room for a lot of work, and there's room for a lot of tough conversations, but there is definitely room for optimism.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Guy. I appreciate that question. This region's tough. We've delivered, 2 light rail projects. We're on our 3rd. We have some good history here, so it's because of the community members. So we have a really good base to work with. I'm going to move forward to the next slide, and I'm just going to beg everybody's forgiveness on this. And maybe we can bring this back to the next meeting, because we do still have a significant amount of information we'd like to share with you tonight and want to get you out on time. So as Dan says, what's really super helpful when we're working with the Federal Transit Administration is that we're not changing too much of the project. So I wanted to share with you tonight that the project, as we have been working through it, does have goals. And they really are the goals of the overall project, and we want to see them realized in every element of our project development. So I just want to talk about just real high level. We'll send these out again so folks can take a look at it, and I think at our next meeting we can have a little bit more of a discussion. This is something that we will be asking community members as well to help us define what these goals look like, and kind of really what does it mean. So really improving transit access and connections to jobs and regional destinations. We hear that over and over and over. That has to be the goal of a project like this, that we have to improve the frequency and reliability of transit services to communities in the corridor. That is the benefit of having this type of investment coming to communities, is that folks know the train's going to be there every 10 minutes, right? They can actually kind of throw away a schedule. And if they get to a station, they know within 10 minutes, during the peak hours, that light rail train's going to be showing up no matter the weather, no matter what's going on. And we need to provide transit improvements that maximize transit benefits while, sorry, Sophia, thanks. She's trigger happy there. Excuse me. That maximize transit benefits while being cost competitive and economically viable. So we definitely want to put investments in here that pay off for the project overall, But we also need to be slightly cognizant, though, that we have to be competitive at a national level, right? So we are competing with the Salt Lake Cities and the Denvers and the Dallases and the Seattles of the world. So we still have to make sure our project is as competitive as can be. And we want to support, and I think this kind of comes up to one of the questions we had, is supporting communities' development goals. If all we do is just blow through communities with a rail line and not be cognizant of that development potential and what the community's vision is, then we've lost it. Then we've failed. So we want to make sure that that's embedded into our process early on. And quite frankly, where a lot of this conversation has set, and the reason why we're able to talk about this is that people got together and wanted to talk about healthy communities and talk about something environmentally sound for not only this generation, but for future generations. And really, how can a project like this help us address some of the larger issues we're facing with climate change? And then, as kind of the last note here, but really on top of our mind is at the forefront, is making sure the work that we do advances equity, and that we have that goal of reducing the regional disparities that we know exist in the state of Minnesota, and that we're on the bottom when it comes to that, and making sure a project like this is able to help us transform and produce capacity and really recognize the equity that's needed. So I just wanted to just share that with you. We'll have a continued discussion. And as you think a little bit of like, do those goals resonate? Is there something that we're missing? Is there something that we include? We'll develop some objectives that kind of talk about of how we would achieve those goals as part of this process. But just wanted to get this in front of you tonight, and just know we'll have further discussion. Thanks for your time. I'm going to be quiet, and I'm going to hand this over to Sophia.
Thanks, Sam. We're presenting a lot of information, but we want to make sure each section that we're addressing tonight also has things that you can sink your teeth into and start to have discussions with us. So we would like to kind of highlight some of our commitments to engagement. I think it is helpful for this committee to hear that and then talk about your role in all of that. And we have not that much time, so Joan and I will do our best to make it more of the lightning speed version. And of course, some of this is that we're sharing tonight is just summary of what we've heard, so that you can we can summarize it basically. And we'll just leave like 2 minutes at the end to talk about our next meeting in a sense. So to kind of frame us up a little bit, there's a few kind of principles that we really take to our engagement work. And our kind of the engagement team's overall commitments is to have a community-centric approach. So that means that all of our stakeholders are involved with us throughout the duration of the project and can weigh in. As Dan and Sam said, we have big work to do this year. Selecting your route is probably the biggest decision that the project makes, and then we get into the details. So making sure that we have robust engagement this year is incredibly critical. And Joan has been using the words, and you'll see it later in her presentation, move at the speed of trust. But even with that, transparency and trust in this process and in information that we have and how this process will work, if this group is reflecting to us that you're not being transparent, that we don't trust what you're doing, that's when we have to stop and really look at what we're doing and get back into it and adjust. And we want to reach people where they are. This group's obviously spending a lot of their time with us, but not everybody has the opportunity to do that. That doesn't mean that we don't want to hear from them or that they shouldn't have input into what we're doing. And then, I don't know it all. Sam doesn't know it all. Dan doesn't know it all. We want to be able to adjust what we're doing based on our ongoing dialogue and feedback that we receive. So those are our commitments. Those are some of our, and in our project principles that you'll share, that's part of that, and we'll make sure the group has that. Couple parts of how we make that commitment is we have dedicated staff that work directly with residents and businesses, and we are always available. If somebody has a question that needs to get answered, it's going to get answered. Bringing in the cultural and community consultants that Joan is going to talk about really kind of furthers that goal and the need, especially during a COVID environment. We want to be very transparent about when and how we release our technical information. And we really want to avoid the fatigue, right? Like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go, right? It's building off of what folks have already said to us and refining that a little bit. So a perfect example is we've asked folks about destinations. That helps influence our station conversation, right? But we want to build off of that as we get into the specific details of where we place stations without asking the exact same question over and over. And then all of you, you are part of this approach, right? You are part of our development of this project. So with that, that is our commitment and approach, overall approach. I'm gonna turn it over to Joan to kind of give an update of what we've heard and then a little bit of what to expect from the community contracts that we have coming up.
Hey, Sophia, before you do that, there was a question from Caroline in the chat.
Thank you. In presenter view, it's really hard to see that. So park and rides will be a part of what we engage in. Jim would probably jump in right now to remind us all that in the city of Minneapolis, it tends to not see that as a super valuable land use. But for our other corridor cities, where we have maybe different travel patterns and slightly different land use, that would be something that we'd be looking at. Multiple stations along the alignment had or will continue to have where we're not touching park and rides. Okay.
Should I go ahead, Sophia? So starting in October in 2020, we did 3 very quick short-term community engagement contracts with 3 community-based and culturally based organizations. And this is what we learned in those 3 months. Our whole goal was to set the table, refresh our relationships in the corridor, update people on where the project is at, which you've heard a lot about today, and then also get an understanding of community thoughts about destinations, opportunities with this new direction, issues with the new direction, and their recommendations on engagement moving forward. So to that end, we did 13 stakeholder interviews. I believe there were up to 5 listening sessions. And these are some of the things that we heard. I'm not going to read them all for you. I think overall, it's good to know that the community is frustrated about the change, but they're ready for solutions to move into a new direction. And a lot of that has to do with how do we pull through all that good work that was done in the previous engagement, and being specific about how we're engaging folks. And as Sophia said, moving at the speed of trust. And I can, let's go to the next slide, Sophia. Also, what we uncovered was community members want to focus on what are the benefits, and they identified connections to jobs and services. They identified climate action and disparity reductions are themes that came forward. Obviously, that's not the be-all, end-all. This is just a snapshot of what we learned when we were setting the table for the robust conversations that are going to continue to happen in 2021. And we heard it loud and clear that preventing displacement of community residents and small businesses in the corridor is a top priority. When big public investments like this land in a community, often it creates some changes in property values and who's interested in being where. So it was a top concern that came out in conversations and in a survey that we did. So next slide, please. So also we had a survey, a community survey, and maybe you guys were part of filling that out. This is very high level what we learned, and I'm going to be having a very comprehensive report done soon. But these were the key area destinations, very high level. Once again, it's not a complete list, but these are the ones that were mentioned over and over again. So area 1 is Brooklyn Park, all the way to the 73rd and I-94. Area 2 is 63rd and Brooklyn Park, Crystal and Robbinsdale. Those are the key destinations that came up. And area 3 is North Minneapolis. So we will continue to have those kind of conversations moving forward. This was just a way to set the table. And also for the survey, it was very interesting that the top priority for everybody was connecting to jobs. It might be a sign of the times, but it also shows how important transit is in our economic health. Also, well, and that's the second priority is transit connections. This was once again a snapshot in time, and we'll continue to learn more from our communities moving forward. So what's going on right now? We have sent out a RFP. We gave 3 weeks for everybody to reply to that. We had an informational conference telling people how to apply. These are Hennepin County dollars. The RFP was for a Hennepin County contract. It's not a grant, but an actual contract to do the work. And we closed the proposals on February 16th. We had a panel of evaluators convened on February 19th. And right now we're in the process of we have selected proposals and we're going to begin the contracting process. I can't tell you who we've selected yet. The final decision at Hennepin County is always made with our county administrator and our county board of commissioners. But yeah, but our evaluation panel felt very good about the broad coverage that our community consultants will be providing us as far as community engagement. We have people representing all geographies of the corridor and cultures. We did find a few gaps in North Minneapolis neighborhoods and in the Latino community. So we're going to make sure that we fill those gaps also with some contracting work. And so more, I'll be back to tell you more. This group will be meeting as a cohort. We're calling it the Community Engagement Cohort. These community consultants, they'll be collaborative. Their work will be coordinated and guided by the Blue Line Project Management Committee, and also guided by the Blue Line Communications and Engagement Group team, which is also Metro Transit in Hennepin County. So I'm really excited to be able to carry forward this in-depth level of community engagement. The people we'll be contracting with have vast networks in the geographies, and I'm really excited to get the work started. So, and with that, I am done.
Thank you, Joan. As we're running kind of short on our meeting, we did want to give the committee an opportunity to just have a discussion of this group's role in furthering engagement. And some folks both on our CAC and BAC also represent organizations that Joan was referring to. So we'll have some overlap between that as well. And since we're a little short on time, maybe just a few thoughts or questions that you have for us, and then we just have one last item to discuss. It'll take a couple minutes, so hopefully you'll bear with us to give us maybe like 5 extra minutes of your day, and we'll try to end very close to our stated time, if that's okay with everyone. Okay. So just like in the previous section, thoughts and comments from the group in our role in this work.
Sophia, I have 2 questions. For Joan. Joan, are you working across the BAC and the CAC as far as your work, or the whoever has been selected?
I think it's going to be really important as this cohort meets. Most likely they'll meet a couple times in the beginning to get orientated to the work and figure out how they're going to coordinate and collaborate with each other. But it's also, like Sophia says, some BAC and CAC members overlap onto these groups that we'll be contracting with. So it's going to be really important. Good point, Catherine. Figure out how we can stay connected to BAC and CAC moving forward.
And then lastly, with your survey, did people talk, you said they wanted connections to jobs. Is that bringing jobs to them or having them go to jobs?
Go to jobs.
Yeah, it's go to jobs. That's correct, Jean. Very high level survey will be, this is the beginning of a conversation, you know? So.
And Catherine, I think our survey results are very consistent with what Metro Transit as a whole hears about our services, right? There's obviously people want jobs to come to neighborhoods, but in terms of accessibility to our region, being able to access jobs and education tends to be the main reason people ride with us, and to when we improve our service, really benefits, as well as everybody's just kind of day-to-day operations as the other feedback that we've kind of received. Any other thoughts, comments? I think it's a lot to digest, so we'll definitely talk about this more, and the groups kind of with this group kind of I think play together in a sense in terms of the contracts that Joan is working on. It's really acknowledging that in COVID it takes a lot more effort to reach people where they are, as well as we're making a very big decision this year. So having people get more boots on the ground to further our work, and you all are helping with that as well in just in a advisory way. So, okay, last thing, and we'll of course talk about our engagement efforts kind of continually within this committee for feedback and thoughts. We have a proposal, which is to have an extra meeting this month, and it's just we'll have to see head nods or no's with it, and we wanted to offer this joint meeting with the BAC as well. One, so that you get to meet your counterparts, and two, because we are on target right now to release kind of our route options before you meet the next time, and not wanting to have this big gap in time between when we get together with you. We often release our kind of things through news releases that helps us make sure that all groups get the same information at the same time. So if y'all want to wait till April, we understand your time, but just wanted, it's kind of big information and a lot to sink teeth into, and we wanted to, reconvene this group and kind of start answering questions and getting into it right away, especially also, so we just did this huge information dump with you all tonight and focusing our next meeting maybe on more discussion. Thoughts, nods.
This is a 2-hour commitment, right? 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I would be okay with that.
I'd be available for that.
I think it's a good idea.
Same with me.
I see some thumbs up. I see some head nods. I see some yeses.
Okay. We will not do this on a regular basis. We understand that your time is valuable. It just seemed like a big piece of information that would be worth diving into more.
Sophia, looks like Ken has a hand up.
Yeah, I had a question for Joan.
Ken, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So you mentioned in your contracts with public engagement CoChairs. Does that include people with disabilities?
That's a really good point, Ken. And no, we did not receive any contract, proposals addressing people with disabilities. Although I do think that many of the groups are not only culturally based, but geographically based, and do have community members that have disabilities within their constituents.
Okay, and if that's a definite gap, maybe there can be some intentional work with the people that do earn contracts to reach out to include people with disabilities specifically. I don't want that to be just, oh, by the way, if you happen to have a disability, we'll add that to our list, but that needs to be an intentional reach out as well.
That's a really good point, and we'll make sure to bring that forward to our cohort, Ken. And it would be awesome. I know that you also serve on the Metropolitan Council's advisory committee there. So it might be great to have you come and talk about your work with them at some point and with our community engagement cohort.
Be happy to do that.
And Ken, too, if you have ideas of folks that would be good to connect with, we'll of course, take that feedback. I know for our, oh man, I'm forgetting the route on Franklin. I just worked on that bus route for a ton of time. We in the name of the school right now, but they were a really
resources.
Yeah, they were a great partner.
Yeah. Okay.
Caroline might have unmuted as well. Maybe not. Okay. With that concludes us talking with you tonight. I guess I would, before we just say goodbye, any other thoughts, comments, questions, desires of the committee?
I think the project is really doable. I believe, are the boots on the ground. I think the guidelines of the community-supported route sticking to the existing plan as it is, so we can get funding, nationally, and whether it makes sense or not. I think we can do that, and I look forward to working with the group and putting our boots on the ground.
Okay. Anybody else? I see a few unmuted folks. Okay. So
I'm gonna close quick, Sophia, with saying that I hope everyone not only feels heard and strongly utilized, but I hope everyone has a little bit of fun in this as well. This will be a chance. I mean, these projects are transformative and they don't come along often. And this really, we're looking for you guys to be partners with us in really helping implement something special that will be lifelong lasting. And so we'll make it, not only, very satisfying, but also fun and exciting to be part of it. So we're happy to have you with us.
If I could just add to what Dan says, we do not want you to check your joy and your passion at the door. In fact,
That's
bring
right.
Well, it was very wonderful to meet all of you tonight for our new members and to have our familiar faces back as well. And got a lot of work to do. Just to kind of summarize the commitments that we have as follow-up, expect we're going to check in with the BAC tomorrow morning, but then after that, expect invitations for the 22nd on your calendars to dive into the routes. We'll also send a communication specific to this committee to make sure you don't miss the news release regarding the routes. You probably won't, but I will follow up anyways. And then the doodle poll, kind of seeing if everybody seems to give the thumbs up to Wednesday, contact information. The contact information and the day. So the we'll see you all on the 22nd. And our chairs also, you'll get the stuff specific to you and the next day as well.
Thank you for organizing. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you.